A 2023 report by the National Institute of Aging found that only 48% of Canadians have a will. And that number drops to 34% for those ages 35 to 54. And considering that up to $1 trillion could pass from baby boomers to younger Canadians over the next decade, this lack of estate planning is pretty concerning. Ultimately, a well thought out will and testament can be the #1 strategy for both ensuring your estate is distributed according to your wishes and ensuring that overall distribution is done as smoothly and as stress-free as possible. But let's back up for a second. What happens if you die without a will? The legal term is dying intestate. Your assets will flow directly into your estate, and the legislation in your province will determine who receives what. In other words, the government controls everything you've accumulated during your lifetime. Now, before you go into a panic, the government isn't going to enter your estate into a 50-50 lottery and just hand it out to the person with the winning ticket. No, they've created a priority order. If you die with a spouse and no children, your spouse inherits everything. If you die with a spouse and children, they're going to divide it up unequally, depending on the value of the estate. If you die with no spouse and no children, your parents will inherit the estate. No parents, next come siblings, nieces and nephews, and so on. The point is, you have no say on who gets what. And when you don't create a will, you aren't just losing the ability to decide on who gets what, you're also leaving behind estate chaos that will likely cause stress for your loved ones. If the government begins divvying up your estate according to their priority order, your loved ones might always question if the distribution is consistent with your wishes. They don't have that firm piece of paper with instructions in your signature. It may lay the seeds for resentment, dispute, and conflict. A pretty famous example of this is Prince. In April of 2016, the legendary musician died without a will. Then came a 6-year battle in court for Prince's estate, which was valued at over $150 million. In 2022, the estate was divided between Prince's publisher and 3 of his siblings. 6 years and what I can only imagine were a lot of billable hours to lawyers on all sides of the dispute. But an estate doesn't have to be that large to leave behind stress. An estate can be worth $1 million and still leave behind a mess. Doing your will doesn't have to be expensive either. In my experience, you can get it done with a good lawyer for under $3,000. If you're young and have a very simple estate, you can even get a will done with an online provider such as Epilogue for much cheaper than that. And if you're a client of our team, you get a 20% discount from Epilogue. Ultimately, the answer here is simple. No matter how simple or complex your estate situation is, or how young or old you are, it rarely ever makes sense to not have a will. It also might make sense to revisit and update your will. Every time you experience a major change in your life, such as the birth of a child or the purchase of a property or anything else of this magnitude, it might be worth revisiting your will, just to make sure it's still consistent with your wishes.